Hi, welcome back to Mommy Meltdown on Giant TV. I'm your host, Steph, and we've talked about a lot of different subjects on Mommy Meltdown. Mostly things that are making me have meltdowns at home, whether it's my kids with video games or my kids with their crazy sports schedules, or perhaps it's even their own mental health needs. But we haven't had a chance to chat about kids when they're super little. It's been a long time since my kids were babies, but I thought, you know what? It's due time that we talk about new moms, new dads, and brand new babies. And to help us today on the show, we are talking with Katie Roebuck. And Katie is a registered nurse, and she is also better known as the Mama Coach. Katie, I love that title, the
Thank
Mama
you.
Coach.
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
really cool. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Show. So I guess we should dive right in and talk about what is a Mama Coach?
So the Mama Coach is actually a group of registered nurses all across Canada.
Oh, okay.
And our goal is to help make motherhood easier. So
I'm all on board for that.
Yes, exactly. We use our unique approach. Everything that we do is evidence-based because we are registered nurses.
Right.
And we provide a wide variety of services. We do prenatal classes, lactation support in both pregnancy and postpartum, sleep coaching, sleep training. I don't like that word sleep training, but that's a huge thing. Yeah. Allergy navigation is another big thing, allergy support. Yeah. And also I'm a heart and stroke CPR instructor. So I do workshops for parents if they're like introducing solids and that sort of stuff. So how to be better prepared for that.
I really just want to dive right in because it's such an assortment of things. That,
yes.
I mean, immediately I'm going back to when I was a first-time mom and you are literally... You could read every What to Expect When You're Expecting book that's on the shelf there, and you're not ready.
No.
You are not ready. And you are crying in the middle of the night because you're thinking, why? How am I going to do this? How am I going to care for this little baby? So you're a registered nurse. You're still doing registered nurse?
Yes, I am.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I still practice at the hospital, at the St. Catherine's Hospital.
Wow.
And so I do that part-time, and I do the Mama Coach, and I have two children myself. They're 8 and 4. Oh, so I'm well past the baby stage as well. Yes. But still learning every day, and so it's a busy life for sure.
So as a mom of 2, and looking back, do you kind of wish that maybe you had something like the Mama Coach?
100% wish I had one of me.
Yeah.
Especially with my son. My son was a horrible sleeper till he was about 3.
Okay.
And I absolutely wish that I had a coach who could do this because, I read every single sleep book I could get my hand on, but there was no consistency, and I really wish I had the help with that. So
sometimes you just need someone to come in and I hate to say do the work, but it's sort of like that. You want someone to say, okay, give me this child, and this is what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
So essentially, that's really what you're going to help with, right?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do is it involves a home visit, depending on the program. And we talk about, okay, this is the plan. And then it's a support period as well, where we stay in touch usually by phone and email. Okay. And just to kind of work on things. And yes, I am their support. I am their cheerleader going yes, you're doing so amazing, because a lot of moms really need that.
And I have to tell you now, with my firstborn especially, like I said, I literally had no idea. I had no idea. And we're going to get into a little bit of postpartum stuff in just a bit, but I had crazy postpartum. I had a non-sleeper. I was not able to breastfeed. He was tongue-tied. He was just a hot mess from the get-go.
Yeah.
And in turn, I was a hot mess as well. We were feeding off of each other, I'm sure, with that equation. And it's interesting because there are so many challenges that come along with being a new parent.
Yeah.
That it's so easy to get frustrated. And even if you might have your mom there, maybe your mom's coming in all the time and helping you out. I think it's different when you have a professional coming in and doing this. What are some of the big challenges that you find new parents have?
Probably the 2 biggest are feeding and sleep, obviously. And they're very tied into one another, because if a baby's not feeding, they're not going to sleep.
Right.
So, feeding is a huge thing, because in pregnancy, your body sustained this baby. It dealt with the nutrition and the waste and everything else. And now all of a sudden, you've been handed this tiny little fragile human, and you're like, okay, now you were responsible for this little fragile human. So And the feeding is a big thing because it's whenever I deal with first time moms, I always say kind of breastfeeding is like almost like the blind leading the blind.
Yes.
You know, how even though nature says like we should know how to do it, you still have to learn.
Yeah.
And it's really,
And some
really
kids
hard.
don't know.
No,
Right? Some babies
completely.
have no idea.
Every
No idea.
baby's different.
Right.
And so it's a big thing. And so feeding is a huge, huge obstacle for a lot of parents. And then obviously if your baby isn't sleeping well, then, or isn't feeding well, then they're not necessarily going to sleep well.
So let's talk a little bit about the feeding part of it. You know, and I think this is such an important thing to talk about, and I think a lot of people don't talk about it. And let's talk about the breastfeeding.
Yeah.
You know, when we're pregnant, we're told, you know, breast is best, but I mean, really, at the end of the day,
That is best.
Fed is best.
100%, yes.
but you can really beat yourself up, you know, if
Yes.
you can't breastfeed or it's just not working.
Yes, that is a huge thing, and you know, there was the founder of our business was actually featured as on multiple platforms about being a lactation who told her clients to formula feed. You know, because again, we are huge advocates for support, and I tell my clients personally, feeding your baby should never compromise your mental health.
Yes.
So
that is so important.
yes. So because again, breastfeeding is not easy for everybody, and like formula feeding is not easy either.
Right.
So, but it's important to have that support but it's, you know, it should not compromise your mental health, and a fed baby and a healthy mom is probably the most important thing out of the whole thing.
And even it's important to also know that even if you decide that you're going to do formula feeding, that too there's a lot of testing period with that. I remember with my firstborn, I think I went through 5 different brands of formula to try before I finally found something that would stick, essentially.
Yes.
And that's just common. I mean, at the time, I thought I just wasn't doing it right. But that's a pretty common thing, right?
Definitely. And there's like finding the right formula. There's the sterilization of the bottles and the preparation of the formula. So, you know, formula is not always the easy way out. So like feeding a baby is work, no matter how you feed that baby.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And like you say, if they're not feeding, they're not sleeping.
Yes.
What's the norm for a baby? Like a newborn baby, are they supposed to be sleeping through the night?
Gosh, no, 100%. I know and that's a lot of the big conversation that I have with both my prenatal clients. I talk about it in pregnancy and then kind of moving on as well, is the expectations for sleep. Right. It is very normal up until probably about a month that your baby's going to be up every 2 to 3 hours to feed, and that's normal. Right. And once they get bigger and your supply is established and their stomach gets bigger, then they can start going longer periods. Okay. But you cannot expect a baby to go a full 12 hours until they're at least 6 months and 13 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So even when I see sleep clients, and they're under that age, I make sure that it's like this is the expectation, is like we're not going to have a 3-month-old baby sleep a full 12 hours. Like if they do, you have a unicorn child.
Yeah, it's just good. Lucky you.
Yes.
Or maybe not so much, right? You never kind of know.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. I feel like that should be, you know, part of a curriculum in a school program or something for having babies. You know, like you're never going to sleep. I used to joke that my firstborn literally did not sleep through a full entire night until he was 6.
Yeah.
And so when baby's not sleeping, mom's not sleeping.
No.
Often dad's not sleeping. So when you come into that kind of equation, I'm sure that you're coming in either right at the get-go and nobody's sleeping because you probably haven't slept for the last 2 months anyway of your pregnancy. Or, you know, you're into the equation and the baby's, you know, a couple of months old and you've got some pretty fatigued parents.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you tell parents how to get through that part? What would you do?
It's really just telling them that, you know, what they're experiencing is normal, you know, but we can fix it, right? Okay. We can, you know, within the realistic expectations of the age of the baby and everything else that's going on, because everything is very customized to what is actually happening, but that we can improve sleep, we can improve feeding. It doesn't have to continue in this manner. Yeah. And we can definitely work to get it better, and I will be there to help support them through that process.
So do you have like sleepovers or something with your clients?
I can.
I could still use your help. Am I too late in the boat now?
Probably not. No, but no, I can do sleepovers, but usually it's just a home visit.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what are what's a quick tip that we might be able to give somebody who is watching this and they think, oh gosh, I just had a baby and the baby's maybe a month or two old, and they aren't eating properly or they're not sleeping at all. What's just a quick thing that they might be able to try and see that to get them to have better habits, I guess?
If it's feeding, when you want to, especially if it's breastfeeding, you want to make sure that baby has a really good latch.
Okay.
I always say that the latch is the cornerstone of breastfeeding.
Right.
The latch should not be painful. Breastfeeding should not be painful.
That's
so
true. Right.
if there's a problem with that, then that needs to be looked at.
Okay.
With sleep, we encourage trying to put baby down, if not fully awake, at least drowsy.
Okay.
And so it just to help to kind of encourage them to learn how to fall asleep independently. So
it's a big thing because so many of us will feed a baby and the baby's out like a light, and then you put them in the crib, right?
Yes, that was me. I did that too. I spent many a night sleeping in a chair because my son would fall asleep and then I would fall asleep and I'm like, well, have I been asleep for 20 minutes or have I been asleep for 2 hours? I don't know.
Yeah.
So trying to put baby down, if not drowsy or fully awake, helps them get used to falling asleep in their own sleep space. Because otherwise what happens if they fall asleep on you, they wake up in their sleeps in their crib, then it's like falling asleep in your bed and then waking up on the lawn. Right. They kind of wake up and go, what the heck happened?
It's a shock, right? They don't feel the heartbeat, they don't feel the warmth.
So trying to put them down in their own sleep space while they're still awake is a huge tip for that.
I love that. I love that. We have got Katie Roebuck. She is the mama coach. She's joining us today on Mommy Meltdown. We were just talking about the challenges with becoming a new parent. I was reading something today that said moms spend 1,400 hours worrying about their baby in their first year, and I thought, yeah, sounds about right.
Might be a little bit short on that, but
Maybe
yeah.
a little shorter on that. One of the things that I really noticed that we're getting better at, I don't think is at the point that it needs to be at, and that's postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And mental health.
Yeah.
And when I had my firstborn, I honest to God didn't even know what it was. I remember the nurse saying to another nurse when I had my son, because he was 24-hour delivery, 2 hours of solid pushing, and afterwards I didn't even want to see him. I didn't want to hold him. And I remember the nurse said to another nurse, keep an eye on her for PPD. And I thought, well, what is that? I had no idea about it. I continued to go for 10 months, feeling off, not connected to this baby, terrified that, gosh, I don't know, is this always going to be this way? And then finally telling somebody, and they told me that I had postpartum depression for all that time.
Yeah.
So how do we break that stigma? What do we look for? What should partners and parents look for in moms that could potentially have postpartum? Yeah,
so it's a really big thing, like you mentioned. So actually, 1 in 5 women will have a perinatal mood disorder, either depression or anxiety, and either in pregnancy or postpartum. So sometimes these things can actually show up in pregnancy.
Yeah, I didn't hear that before either. That's interesting.
And postpartum depression is a big one that's talked about a lot, but postpartum anxiety is another one that's coming up a lot as well.
Okay.
And again, it's something that a lot of moms experience but don't talk about.
And so what's the difference between the two?
Postpartum anxiety is more having racing thoughts, really overly concerned about your baby, panic, when your baby is healthy and well and growing, worrying about things, not sleeping, there's a lot of things that can be involved in that. Nausea, racing heart rate, there's so many things that are involved.
So similar to what anxiety symptoms would be, but
very
just
similar.
Related to the baby.
Yes, very much surrounding the baby. So there are certain risk factors, if you yourself have had depression or anxiety before pregnancy, if you have a direct family member like a mom or a sister who's had depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, that also puts you at a higher risk. So just watching out for those symptoms, like I was saying, if your baby is healthy and well, but you're not sleeping, you're up, panic, worrying about your baby, that's a big thing. Yeah. Not no, the big one is moms saying they don't feel like themselves anymore.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
the baby blues is 100% normal. Because I mean, you're tired, you've physically gone through a birth, but baby blues usually lasts about 2 weeks. So if it's lasting beyond that 2-week period, or if you're finding that your mood is impacting your daily life, like impacting your ability to go to the grocery store and all that sort of stuff, then it's something that you definitely want to talk to somebody about, whether it's your partner, a friend, a doctor, you know, and that's a big part of the support and having your village when you're being a mom.
And I love that we were calling this, you know, you're the mama coach, and this originated where?
In Calgary.
In Calgary.
Yeah.
I love that it took off so well in Calgary that we've just expanded that all across Canada.
Yes.
It's got to be doing very well. But it goes to the guys as well. It goes to the dads because 100%. They need as much coaching, if you will, as the moms do,
Yes,
right?
we do, yeah. It should be actually called more like the parent coach, but yes, the mama coach just kind of sounds better.
I like it.
But we definitely look at everything in the family unit.
Okay.
So, you know, when I'm dealing with prenatal classes, I include the partner because they're usually the support person, you know, of, okay, like this is how you're going to help coach her through labor. When we're dealing with sleep, big thing when you're dealing with and helping with sleep, you need to present a united front, especially when you're dealing with toddlers and boundaries and stuff.
Right up until they're like teenagers.
Exactly.
I think, you know,
Boundaries are a good thing, but you know, I include the entire family unit. You know, it's very important.
And I think it's a tough conversation to have as a couple.
It can be.
When, you know, and in all fairness, and I mean, every guy's different, but I think a lot of guys, they get into the dad role and they think, what? I have to do something now?
Yes.
You know, they're not expecting that. And I think as women, we don't really know how to tell them that we need that extra support or help. So it's kind of nice to have somebody, you know, from the outside looking in saying, this is what you can kind of help out with a little bit.
I definitely do that. I definitely get the dads involved. You know, they change diapers when we do prenatal classes. And I'm like, this is how you're going to do it because you're going to have to learn.
I wish I had you. Oh, my husband actually refused to change a diaper for our firstborn. Like, it was unbelievable. My second one, he was like, I'm all in, no problem.
There you go.
So if there's one bit of advice that we could give to new parents, what would it be?
Find your village. Right, like, you know, they say you need a village to raise a child, but you also need a village to raise a mother. You know, you need to have a village of support, and that support needs to be both personal and professional. Okay. So you need your mom friends, you know, whether like the moms you have coffee with, your friends who have babies, your family members, the mom from yoga group, from the early years center, who have kids around the same age, or even if they're a little bit older, they're like, oh yeah, I went through that last week. Because they may not be able to give you the advice, but they're at least in the trenches with you. They're exhausted with you. So it
makes you feel a little bit better,
but it also makes you realize that, you know, that like the Instagram moms and the moms on social media, they're only giving you a small snippet of what actually motherhood is like. And there's a photo filter on that.
It's so true.
And so having moms with you that are going through this everything with you is really, really important because it makes it feel more real and helps kind of separate the expectations versus reality.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you also need your professionals too. So like your doctor, your baby's doctor, therapist, if you need a therapist, you know, finding those professional resources because Google's not a very good doctor.
No, it's a terrible doctor. It's a terrible doctor.
So having those resources, and you know, that's one of the things that I love about the Mama Coach is that we put out articles 5 days a week, and most of us are parents, so we either like there is a little bit of our own personal story in there as well, but everything is evidence based. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I really like, and I love that that's not just an opinion piece on something, that there is something behind it.
Yes,
you know?
It's you know, half of us are lactation consultants. Everything is based on the science of sleep, so everything is very evidence based. So it's a really good resource, and we write articles on feeding and sleep and pregnancy. There's tons out there.
Well, and I want to talk to you a little bit about some of that just before we wrap it up really quickly here, because I know that you guys do a ton of like you say, articles and seminars and workshops, as you call them. You just had one with infant CPR, which I took many years ago, and it's important to have because you never think you're going to need it.
Yeah.
And you hope you don't, but it's a good thing to have in
It's a
your back
very
pocket.
good thing to have. It's like it's the insurance policy.
It's
So,
the insurance policy. That's
yeah,
exactly
because you
it.
hope that you never have to need it,
Yeah.
but you're going to be glad that you have it if you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even when you had about solid foods, road trips,
Yep.
you know, flying and traveling with kids, these are things that you don't think about until you're in that predicament. You're like, oh, this would have been good information. to
Yeah.
have. The one I really loved was the return to work seminar, because that's a really tough transition.
Very.
You know, if you're a new mom, you've been going through the trenches for the last year, and now you got to go into the real world again. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to go get a shopping trip in for first of all. Those clothes don't fit anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
That's usually the case.
Yeah.
And then all the things that come with it. So
Yeah,
I love that you offer all those pieces of advice and outlets for new moms, and I love too that it's not just for new moms. I mean,
No.
you help people right up till, you were saying, what age?
The sleep support goes up until I believe the age of 10.
Okay.
So yeah, most of our clients that we see are under the age of 2, but
Okay,
yeah, we
excellent.
do deal with older children as well, because sleep problems can happen at any age. So.
Yeah, and they can linger. So you do want
Yeah.
to nip those in the bud.
Yes.
As soon as you can, for you and the kid.
Yes,
For sure.
yes, it's not just sleep for babies, sleep for everybody.
Katie, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today on Mommy Meltdown. Katie Roebuck joining me on Mommy Meltdown today. She is the mama coach here for the Niagara region. If we want to get in touch with you, I kind of feel like this would be an awesome shower gift to give to somebody.
Yes,
know?
yes, I do. There is actually a shower gift. Yes,
I think that's fantastic. So if we want to get in touch with you, we want you to come into our homes and help our babies and help our mamas, how can we reach out to you?
There's a couple ways. So one is through social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram is at Katie the Mama Coach. Facebook is the Mama Coach Katie Roebuck.
Okay.
And the website where all the articles are and all the list of the services is themamacoach.ca.
Okay.
And if you want to get a hold of me personally, it's themamacoach.ca/Katie-Roebuck.
Okay, lots of different venues that
Yes.
we can reach you at, for
Yes.
sure. And we're going to post all of those right below in our description here on
Fantastic.
YouTube. So thank you once again, Katie, for stopping by. I learned something new today. I don't want to go through it all again, but I'm glad that
Well,
I
thank
really
you.
wish I had you when I had my first two, for sure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today on Mommy Meltdown. Remember, you can freak out. You just can't stress out because you had a Mommy Meltdown. Until next time.